This is what happened. I'm not quite sure where to start, so I guess I'll just start. I play it over and over in my head, to think about if it really happened. And it really happened. It happened all right. It involves a small skirmish that occurred during the Civil War here in South Louisiana. In fact, it happened just a few miles away outside that window behind me, about 5 minutes away. It's a battle of no consequence. It's unnamed and unknown to many people. But there is something pretty important that happened. During this skirmish that I want to share with you, this thing that happened, um, a Union captain was killed. What happened was he and his regiment, it was the 118th Illinois, about 500 men for the Union. They went out on a reconnaissance mission in the area, and they came across a Confederate force much larger than theirs, upwards of 7 or 8 times larger than theirs. So they had to turn and run. They had to retreat. And it got to the point where the Confederates were just catching up with them. So they had to stand and they had to put up an offensive. Now, the story involves a captain who was killed during this skirmish. His name was Captain Arthur Marsh, 118th Illinois Mounted Infantry. He went to give his men an order, and just as he turned in the saddle, a bullet entered his back, exited his left breast, and the blood projected 3 feet in front of him, showing that a large vessel had been severed. That comes from the account of a soldier who witnessed the entire thing. Now, in this soldier's diary and in other maps that I pieced together, I was able to locate where this skirmish happened and where Captain Arthur Marsh fell. Now, I don't know why this story fascinated me so. Maybe it was because of the description of his death. Maybe it's because it happened just 5 minutes outside that window behind me, a couple miles away. Maybe it's because I too lost an ancestor in the Civil War. I don't know, but I wanted to know more about this skirmish that occurred. I wanted to know more about Captain Marsh, but I exhausted all the sources that I had at my disposal. And I started to look at living descendants, see if there were any living descendants. Why not? I went on Ancestry, I went on a few other websites just to see if there were any living descendants of Captain Marsh. I come across this gentleman from Minnesota. I sent him an email. I said, I hope he has a little bit of knowledge of the Civil War. I hope he has some interest in it. I hope, maybe he's heard of Captain Marsh. He emails me within 15 minutes. Now, this is where things get interesting. Turns out he's a Civil War historian, author, lecturer, reenactor. He knows all things Civil War. He's devoted his life to studying the Civil War. He learned as a boy from a relative that he had an ancestor, Captain Marsh, who died in the Civil War. This triggered his desire to know all he could about the Civil War, a lifelong passion. In his email that he sent to me, he said, yeah, I've heard of Arthur Marsh. Of course I have. I've studied him, but I don't know where he died. I know that it was in South Louisiana, but I don't know where. Well, we went back and forth, correspondence for days, and I told him, I said, look, I know where he died. I've pieced together information. I've put together maps, soldier diary entries. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt the fields where he died. He was fascinated. Captain Marsh's regiment stopped in this approximate location right here to fight. It was once the site of a small plantation which was surrounded by hedges and a wooden rail fence, which soldiers used as cover while they fought. He shared information with me that I did not have, such as the letter that Captain Marsh's CEO, his commanding officer, wrote to his family back home describing the incident. I had information that he didn't have, and we went back and forth. Now, this is where things get super interesting. Turns out he was coming down from Minnesota to visit family in either Texas or Mississippi. And he said, look, I will drive out to South Louisiana. I'll meet up with you, and maybe we could tour the area. He's been wanting to know this information all his life. I said, look, come on down. I'll be your tour guide. A few days before he arrived, I went out to the property where all this happened to get permission to metal detect and to walk the grounds, and I told them what was happening. They had never even heard about a Civil War skirmish. Some of them had. Some of the elderly folk, like 80, 90 years old, had, but they didn't know the details of it. And they were like, sure, come on out. We'd love to meet this guy. A couple of days before he arrived, I went out metal detecting one of these fields. I found a few fired mini balls, Civil War bullets.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Yes, there was action here. Oh, by the way, there was a Union captain who was killed during this skirmish. His name was Arthur Marsh. I needed confirmation that this was a battlefield right here. Not many, if any, people know about it. Wow, finally. And it's fired, so it has seen action.
That was great confirmation, great verification of everything that I had researched. The day he arrived, I met him at his hotel, and we exchanged some research. This gentleman is actually the second great-grandson of Arthur Marsh. He gave me a signed copy of his book, which is great. And the book is Every Man Did His Duty. It's about the 1st Minnesota. But anyway, we drove the same route. We left the camp where the Union were camped out. We left the camp. We went on the same route that his ancestor did. We stopped at a few key locations. We ended up stopping at the battlefield where it all happened. He got out. I got out. We took some pictures. We met up with some of the landowners. They were more than thrilled to meet this individual. We gained some insight from some of the old folks in the area who'd heard stories as youngsters in French, Cajun French, about a great Civil War battle that had happened. Now, Captain Arthur Marsh, his regiment was under such heavy fire that they had to leave his body in the road. The Confederates, when the skirmish was over, the Confederates went and peeled his body. They took his sidearm, they took his shoes, they took his uniform, and left him there virtually naked. A slave who witnessed the entire skirmish from his slave cabin could not leave the young captain in the field for the birds, so he went and he buried the captain in a shallow grave. The next day, the captain's brother, who was also in the Union Army, went under a flag of truce to recover the body. His brother's body was naked in the tomb, in the grave, and they removed the body, which was partially covered in water, and they sent it back up to Illinois. Anyway, the day that his descendant came down to visit with me was very magical. We went here, we went there, we were able to walk the grounds. It was very fulfilling for him. And it was equally, well, I can't say equally, but it was very fulfilling for me as well to help someone out with that. I gave him the bullets that I did find. That's the least I could do. But after he left, I went and dropped him back off at his hotel. I stopped back by the old field where the battle happened. I did a little bit of metal detecting, and this is what I found. Check it out.
This was an excellent signal right here. Not in my hand, it fell somewhere. Fell somewhere. Oh, wow. No way, an infield. A dropped infield. Oh, this makes so much sense. On the trail of the 118th Illinois Mounted Infantry, who were issued infield rifles, who were at a very hot skirmish in this area. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Louisiana. Wow, flat base. What is that, a Spencer? A carbine bullet, and that's exactly where it should be. The Texas Cavalry were chasing the 118th Illinois. It's like a story that's unfolding. It could be a Union bullet. You never know, but it looks like it was unfired. The casing probably rotted away long ago and a storm's coming. God, I can't leave now. I just dug the infield right there. I dug the iron right there. I dug this one right here. I'm so pumped up. This is not a normal dig at all for me. I wasn't even going to stop back by here. Wow, this is amazing. I'm not stopping. I'm not going to let this storm over here that's brewing, I care not. We're going to keep digging.
The storm did stop me, but I will go out there in the future, and this gentleman will come back down in the future. There are many other places that we can visit, many other sites to see, a lot of research to do. But that's one of the great things about history, is the constant piecing together, questioning it, figuring it out, coming up with questions which lead to answers, which lead to more questions. It was a very magical experience for me, to say the least. And I thank you for watching and sharing it with me. And I'm happy to be able to share it with you. So if you like videos like this, or like videos about the Civil War or metal detecting, please comment and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. So until next time, y'all take care. Appreciate you watching.